All Elite Wrestling has been announced and we don't know the final roster. Well, there are some superstars in the WWE currently that could benefit if they left WWE and went to All Elite Wrestling. Today we're going to look at 10 superstars who should leave WWE and go to All Elite Wrestling. Number 10, Curt Hawkins. Now, Curt Hawkins, when he came back to the WWE, we all thought that they would maybe do something with him. Going on the independent scene, he made a name for himself as Brian Myers and came back and hasn't really done anything. All that Curt Hawkins has done is got the biggest lose streak in WWE history. So leaving WWE wouldn't be a big thing for him, and going to All Elite Wrestling would be huge. Number 9, Shane Thorne. The Mighty. A great tag team that possibly could have been future WWE Tag Team Champions on Raw and SmackDown. However, Nick Miller actually left the WWE to return home to take care of his family. That leaves Shane Thorne without a lot to do. Now, currently in NXT, they haven't done anything with him, and it doesn't look like they're going to do anything with him anytime soon. So leaving the WWE would be a great choice for him. He could go to All Elite Wrestling and build a name for himself there. Number 8, Aiden English. Rusev Day. Probably one of the biggest things going in professional wrestling the last year was Rusev Day. He actually had Aiden English by his side, but since then, Aiden English has just been floundering. Now, he was a part of the Vaudevillains, and that was cool and all, but that didn't really go anywhere. Rusev Day was probably the peak of Aiden English's career, and I think he's a great talent. I think he's great on the microphone, and I think he just needs that push, that one little nudge, and he could be a major player in any major promotion. I think leaving the WWE and going to All Elite Wrestling would be best for him. Number 7, Tye Dillinger. Now, if you want to talk about a guy who floundered coming from NXT, that would be Tye Dillinger. Tye Dillinger had so much potential in NXT, and getting called up to the main roster, you thought maybe, just maybe, he would do something awesome. 10, 10, 10 just wasn't enough numbers for him to get over in the WWE. I still think that Tye Dillinger could be a major player. He's been around the wrestling business for a long, long time, but WWE just isn't using him properly, and I think going to All Elite Wrestling could be best for him. Number 6, Eric Young. Now, Eric Young is a guy who's been around the business for a while. And if you know anything about his TNA Wrestling, Impact Wrestling days, whatever you want to call it, he was awesome. Eric Young was awesome. And then going to NXT and teaming up with Sanity, that was even better. But now in the WWE, in the main roster on SmackDown, it seems like they're not doing anything with Sanity. Eric Young and Sanity debuted, and then they haven't done anything since late of 2018, and it seems like they don't really have any plans for him. Honestly, I thought Sanity could have done something really great, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. Anything could change, but I think Eric Young is a top player. I do think that he has the talent, and if he left WWE, All Elite Wrestling would look really good to him. Number 5, Shelton Benjamin. Ain't no stopping me now. Here's a guy who I think should be a main eventer in the WWE. I think on SmackDown alone, his wrestling talent is so good that he could be a champion on SmackDown. I think he could even be a WWE champion if they would push him properly. Now, I don't know that WWE really wants to, but with Shelton Benjamin, it seems like whenever they need a really good match, he's their guy for that. He will put somebody over. He will make people look good. Now, honestly, I think that Shelton Benjamin's going to get in this case where he's just going to be a good wrestler and they're not really going to do much with him because it seems like WWE doesn't have a lot to do with him. So if I was Shelton, I would leave the WWE and go to All Elite Wrestling. Reason being, he's already got that independent, fast-paced style, so he would fit in perfect at All Elite Wrestling. Number 4 and number 3, The Revival. Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder are a great throwback to old school tag teams. Now, the rumor has been circulating that the Revival would be leaving WWE and going to All Elite Wrestling, and I think that would benefit them majorly. Since coming to the WWE, we know the tag team division was a little bit lackluster, and they tried to build that. There's been a lot of tag team matches for them, and they've gone through pretty much every tag team there is in the WWE. So for the Revival, what I see is they could leave the WWE, go to All Elite Wrestling, and wrestle some fresh, new people. I think it's perfect for them because, like I said earlier, they've pretty much wrestled every tag team WWE has to offer. So I think them going to All Elite Wrestling would be a great contrast to those high flyers. They could bring that old school wrestling and give something a little bit different to All Elite Wrestling. Number 2, Tyler Breeze. Now, Tyler Breeze is one of my favorites in NXT. He was a guy who went out there, he worked really hard, he had an awesome gimmick, and he was just a great athlete. When they needed somebody to put on a great match, they put him against Jushin Thunder Liger. That should be a compliment right there. They know that he could produce a great match. Now, NXT did recently bring him back for a one-off, and then he showed up on Raw and did like a one-off, but I think Tyler Breeze is one of those underused talents, one of those diamonds in the rough that if he went on the independents and went with All Elite Wrestling, I think that would be huge for him. I think that he could get himself out there, and the name of Tyler Breeze would just grow and grow and grow if he went to All Elite Wrestling. Again, his wrestling skill backs up, and he's got a character that he can follow with that. I think Tyler Breeze would be an amazing talent at All Elite Wrestling. Number 1, ZACK RYDER. Honestly, I was a huge fan of ZACK RYDER back in the day. Being able to use the internet and make his own name for himself, doing something completely different than anything else in the WWE, that's ZACK RYDER. Woo, woo, woo. You know it. And he did wonders for himself. But WWE, I don't think they knew what they had in their hands, and they kind of dropped the ball with him. They made him do some stupid stuff with Kane. And then ever since then, I don't think he's fully recovered. Yeah, he's been Intercontinental Champion, US Champion. He's done some tag team stuff. But I think the time for ZACK RYDER in WWE is up. I think if he left the WWE and went to All Elite Wrestling, I think that would be huge for him, and I think this would be just what he needs for his career. I think he's one of those guys that could push the upper echelon of professional wrestling, but WWE just never gives him that chance, and they had something great in their hands, and they let it slip through. And again, he's only wrestled like one match on television in 2018, so why is he even sticking around here? I think All Elite Wrestling would be great for ZACK RYDER. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. If you guys do enjoy that, make sure you smash that like button and let me know in the comment section below, who from the WWE would you like to see in All Elite Wrestling? As always, I'm TonyPizzaGuy, and we'll see you in another video.